Alright, welcome back everyone. So now the fun starts. We have one flat roof and you can only imagine that if it rained this would not be a roof anymore, it would be a lake. So any roof that's architecturally designed as kind of what we'll call a flat roof has to have drainage, and that drainage has to be defined by slopes on the roof, and that's actually what gets constructed. So let's do that. So I'm going to navigate to the roof plan view, and the first thing the textbook is going to ask us to do is create a new roof style, and it's going to ask us to call this thing a insulated concrete, a 4-inch insulated concrete roof. So of course with this 12 foot we're going to edit type and we're going to duplicate, and here's what I'm going to do. So of course, by the way, I don't have this in my project, this 4-inch thing. So I'm going to duplicate this 12-inch roof, and I'm going to add the appropriate layers that the textbook is asking me to on page 308. And you probably want to pause the video at this point and do that work and come back, and I'll have mine added, and then we can move on from there. And sure enough, here is the correct dialog box. Actually, I guess I need concrete. Sorry about that. Come up and get concrete. It's looking for lightweight concrete. Click OK. OK. I've got my 4-inch insulated. OK. And this roof now is 4-inch insulated. OK. So here we're going to now get into adjusting the roof. And so what I'm going to need to do is exactly what we did on the bathrooms down below. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select this roof, and I want to add split lines, right? And I'm going to need to split this section, this rectangular section off. So I'm going to add a split line, and I'm going to make sure that I'm snapping to these already lime green points. So there's one, and making sure I don't have my chain on because I just want another line coming up here, and I have that good to go. So I am also going to draw one of these from left to right in the building. So I'm going to come over here and find the midpoint, and there it is, and progress all the way to the right. Select that, and so here's one of the best warnings that you're going to get. So notice, and I don't know if you can see it on my screen, but you want to make sure that you're moving straight right at 0 degrees and you see a midpoint snap. If you don't see that midpoint snap, I'm going to highly suggest don't try and get it. Don't worry about it. What it does mean though is when you modeled your building that somehow these two walls and this arc aren't centered on your building. And what's going to end up happening, I'm going to finish this line. What's going to end up happening then, if these aren't centered, when we go to actually add our slope lines, this right hand section is going to kind of be messed up in your project. This just isn't the time to go back and try and redraw all these walls. You need to accept what you have. Okay, so I've got a bunch of split lines, and I now need to add some more sections to this roof. And Revit is going to ask us to create some reference planes, right? And clearly the textbook loves to use reference planes, and reference planes are a great tool, but quite honestly, they're a great tool for families. They're only possibly maybe a good tool in projects. But if I start drawing some reference planes up and down here, they're going to be visible on level 4, level 3, level 2, level 1, And if somebody else goes into my project to work on level 2, they're going to look at those reference planes and go, huh? What do these mean? And they're going to spend 15 minutes or a half hour chasing me down to the water cooler and ask, what do they mean? I'll tell them they're up on the roof, and they'll go, oh, well, what are they doing on level 2? My perspective is I'm not going to use reference planes, so I'm simply going to use annotate detail lines. And I'm going to draw these lines just as the textbook asks, kind of some vertical lines inside of wall to inside of wall. I'll take my chain off and get 2, 3, and 4 lines, I think is what we were asked for. All right. So now I'm going to set these to be equal length. I'm going to use that equal dimension. So inside of wall to my lines to inside of wall. Click it into place and say I want them to be equal, and they now are. Okay. So here we have areas that these vertical lines that tell us, hey, we know exactly where now I want to add additional split lines. So I need to go back and select the roof, add split lines, and now I'm going to simply draw right on top of these things, making sure I come down actually to that green line. I'm going to make sure I check and see where I was up here. And of course I'm a little short. I'll drag it up to the right spot. Let's see, I may have gotten myself in trouble there. So modify sub-elements. Yeah, I don't like what I have. So modify sub-elements. Here's a split line. Yeah, there's that split line. I'm not sure it is or not, but I'm going to delete it. Select my roof, modify sub-elements. Now select this thing and delete it. Select this point and delete it. Come down and select this line and delete it. Delete my point. I better undo that one. Make sure I select the point. That's going to be a little bit frustrating. I'll leave that one there. Yeah, and this is gone too. Okay, so I kind of need to get my other additional annotation line. So I guess actually I'm just going to click undo through here a couple times. Let's see where I'm at. Yeah, so I have my basic lines. So I need to be a lot more careful when I am adding these split lines. So from green dash down to green dash. Got it. And I'm going to suggest that I probably didn't draw my annotation lines in exactly the right spot. I should have come down a little further to get to that dashed green line, which defines the edges of the roof. And you might be wondering, well, why is the dashed green line outside of what appears to be the inside of the wall? And that is that overhang is the parapet that I'm looking at, and the parapet extends out over the wall on the outside, and it also extends inside the wall as well. So it looks like I'm drawing past the inside of the wall, but I'm really not, because that parapet is there. Okay, so I now have all these elements, and by the way, since I haven't reset any elements, notice anything I click on has a value of 0. So it's time for us to be adding points here in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I think actually 11 down here will be our negative value. So let's figure out how to add a point right here in the middle of nowhere. So again, I'm going to use the annotate line, detail line, and I am going to make sure that I'm snapping to this portion of the roof down to this intersection. And then when I select my roof, I can modify sub-elements, and I can simply add a point and find the midpoint. And there is a point. So I'm going to come right back, select the point, and adjust its elevation to -3 inches. All right, so I have one point, and notice, of course, the roof is already sloped for me. So I could put all these angled lines in, but I'm going to make an effort to select my roof, modify sub-elements, choose this point, and apparently I don't have the copy option. So I'm going to actually have to draw and copy all of these angled lines that I need. So annotate detail line. Actually, let's see if I can select. There it is. That's the detail line. So I'm just going to use my copy command, and I'm just going to actually I'm going to mirror it about the center of the building. Now I have one there, and now I will copy both of these since I'm going to need both anyway, and I will choose multiple, constrain, and say here's my start point, and I'm just going to copy this over, and I'll have my midpoints that I need. Okay, got it. So let's modify the roof and add these points. Select my roof, modify points, add points, and find the midpoint of each of these lines. Alright, so I have each midpoint. I hit escape too many times, but I'm going to already delete my sketched lines because I really just like to keep my files clean. As soon as my slope shows up, those lines are going to kind of become not apparent that they even exist, and I'll forget about them. So delete, select my roof, modify sub-elements. Now I can select these points, and each of these center points needs to be -3 inches. So I'm going to progress around and do the same thing. And of course, feel free to fast forward just a little bit because you're not learning anything new here. I'm simply setting my values to -3 inches. And notice, of course, each time I do, the roof is dynamically updating and adding that slope. So now I have this whole area done, and I need to repeat this task over here. I should say work on this task over here. So we are going to take this point and set it at -3 inches. And we're going to have some additional points in here. And to get those additional points, I'm going to be doing a little bit of drawing. So let's see, escape here, detail lines, and I'm going to make sure I pick the end point of my split line, come down and get the endpoint here, and then I'm going to draw a line across. Make sure I get the right snap, and I'm not getting the right snap. I'm going to think about that. Do I need to do anything? Actually, I really don't. Okay, so I will mirror this line, and now I have my construction lines, so I will modify, add point, and find the midpoint. 1, 2, hit escape, get those sketched lines, delete them, select the roof, modify points, and set these to, I don't know how that ended up -3/4 or whatever that was, but -3 inches. Oh, we didn't like that. I wonder what the textbook tells me to do there. Yep, looks like it's -3 inches all the way. So that error message I shouldn't have clicked through quite so quickly. Let's see if we can get this same error message here. So -3 inches, and of course that one works. I wonder what I hit here. Yeah, -3 feet. I guess that's important to make sure that we don't mess those things up. Okay, so I do need to do a little bit more work out here. I need to set a point to -3 inches out here. So let's see. I'm going to draw some lines, making sure I snap to the endpoint. I want to go up at 45 degrees and then come down at 45 degrees and draw a line. I tried this before. I don't know why it didn't work. Oh, that's why. I want to go from the wall point. Let's see if I can get that snap. There it is, to the midpoint. And repeat that process here. Make sure I'm getting the wall snap, not the parapet snap. And come up, endpoint, and I'm now going to get these drawn lines. Oh, I'll just trim them to a corner. I don't really care. So that I know where that point is, and then I'm going to have to add some points. So select my roof, modify sub-elements, add points here, and get the endpoints. Okay. Hit escape a couple times, and I'm going to now delete my sketch lines. And I have some roof information here. So roof, modify subpoints. Let's see where these are. So magically it went to -1 inch. That's not what I'm looking for. I want -3 inches. And I'll repeat the same process down here. -3 inches. And this east roof is actually complete. And again, know that if your right hand section just either simply doesn't work, or you get split lines that are kind of really difficult to control, know that again it's kind of going to come back to these two walls probably not centered in your building, or potentially, or in addition to this curved arc wall not meeting up and being tangent or being centered in the building. So whatever your right hand condition looks like, at this point you just kind of need to accept it, right? It would require completely rebuilding this end of your building for you. All right, so we've concluded this. This is the end of chapter 7, and we've now put on 4 major roofs, including a dormer, then in addition to a dormer down here. So footprint, extrusion, pretty significant kind of multi-piece roof, then adding a dormer and sloped roofs that can actually drain water down into the building as opposed to having it fall off the roof. So all good progress, and so then the exterior of the building is actually starting to look pretty complete. At some point we're going to add some patios and a ramp out here, but our building is starting to shape up. So hope this has been helpful, adding some clarity. I know each year the roofs can create some difficulty. So look forward to continuing some video here as we move forward. I know stairs are also pretty involved, and so we're going to have some video instruction on stairs as well. Look forward to it, and we'll see you in the next topic of this commercial building.